Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Mayor of the City of Clarence, Councillor Brendan.
Well, hello and welcome all. Before proceeding, I pay my respects to the Mummarimana people as the traditional and original custodians of the lands on which we meet, and I acknowledge the continuing connection of the Tasmanian Aboriginal people to the skies, land and waterways. I pay respect to elders past and present. Before we commence with tonight's council meeting, please let us all pause for a quiet moment of reflection and respect. Thank you, councillors. Please be seated. Well, good evening and welcome to the Clarence City Council meeting of Monday, the 18th of March 2024. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube. What is said in this meeting is not protected by privilege, and there is a link to the agenda papers on Council's website. Item number 2, apologies. Councillor Darko has a leave of absence and Councillor Mulder is an apology, otherwise we're all present and correct. Item 3, declarations of interest of councillors or close associate. Are there any declarations from councillors? Right, there being none, we're now heading to our omnibus item. Item number 4.1, confirmation of the minutes. That the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of February 2024 have been circulated. Are there any issues arising? There being none, we move now on to 4.2, Mayor's communication. And I table my diary entries from the 27th of February through to today, and also the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ritchie, who represented me, and I thank her as always for that. I now move on to 4.2.1a. I table the neighbour social impact reports for Tasmania, Greater Hobart and Clarence, as presented to me on the 7th of March at the Grace Centre in Rokeby. For the information of colleagues, Neighbour is an international organisation that reports the collective social impact of the faith community in a city or region. And whilst there is no doubt that our society is becoming increasingly secular, with 50% of the population of the Greater Hobart region reporting that they have no religion, faith-based organisations do continue to play an important role in our community. The final audit report for Greater Hobart found that over the past year, over 88,000 individuals, some 36% of the Greater Hobart population, were assisted by at least one of the 139 community services activities operated by a faith-based organisation. The report conservatively advises that this equates to social value impact of over $27 million to the region each year. In the city of Clarence, with a population of over 63,000, the top 3 social issues being addressed clearly mirror what is being experienced across the Greater Hobart region and include social isolation and loneliness, mental health and homelessness and insecure housing. The social impact value to the city of Clarence over the past year is in excess of $5 million. Colleagues, I'm sure we can all agree that as cost of living pressures continue to impact us all, and there are more individuals and families doing it tough, it is reassuring to know that there are many organisations stepping up to address gaps in social service areas and working to positively transform our community. As a council, understanding the contribution of these organisations allows us to more effectively harness and collaborate with this amazing resource in the best interests of our community. So on behalf of a grateful council, thank you to all those committed to the service of others. It is greatly appreciated by so many. I also now table a letter from Mr Robert Otto, and Mr Otto writes, "Good morning, Clarence team. I'm writing to you in the hope you might reconsider disabling comments on your posts or limit the ability for the person to comment." And Mr Otto attached some screenshots of some interactions on our council's website. As a Clarence resident and ratepayer, I'm finding it extremely frustrating viewing the lies and misrepresentation of council's position on these posts. As a ratepayer and resident, I know for a fact this is a lie, as I was able to provide feedback on the High Performance Centre. On various forums, I've also observed the person carrying out targeted online bullying of council staff and elected members, up to and including doxing of council staff. Recently, I've observed the mayor repeatedly targeted, one example for simply attending an event in a different council jurisdiction. The attacks are relentless, unreasonable and would start to impact the mental health of council staff and elected members, and also frustrating for residents and ratepayers trying to keep abreast of general council business. Thank you for your time and consideration. Signed, Mr Robert Otto. Well, as colleagues will recall, this matter was raised at our last council meeting, and since that time the CEO has had calls to write to a resident about her conduct, and a copy of that correspondence was provided to all elected members. As the CEO outlined, Council does welcome open debate on topics of community interest. However, it is important that those debates are not misled by factually inaccurate or misleading statements, or conducted in a way that is unsafe for councillors, council staff, or other workplace participants. The relevant point is, this is not a free-for-all. It's not a free-for-all environment where anything goes. Debate, discussion and dissent must be undertaken in a respectful way. So with this in mind, I respectfully urge all elected members and members of the public to please conduct your discourse professionally, respectfully and at all times factually. Moving now on to item 4.3, council workshops as listed in the agenda. Item 4.4, tabling of petitions. CEO, are there any petitions?
Thank you, Mayor. We have two petitions for tabling tonight. The first petition is a paper petition containing 1,301 signatures concerned over the lack of community consultation undertaken regarding the proposed siting of the AFL High Performance Centre and requesting Council hold a public meeting to discuss this matter. The petition complies with the requirements of Section 57 of the Local Government Act, and to meet the requirements of Section 59 of the Act in regard to requesting a public meeting, the petition must be signed by 1,000 electors of Clarence. Checking of those signatures is currently in progress and will be reported to the next meeting.
May I
Excuse me.
table that one?
Yeah, excuse me, Councillor Warren. So that was given to you by Councillor Warren?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Councillor Warren, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, I would. I was approached to table this petition and I'm happy to do so. I was elected on a platform of listening to the residents of Clarence. I'd like to highlight the two areas of concern raised in this survey because much of the interaction I've heard on this topic fails to respond to these concerns when they are raised and instead resorts to a well-used template that is more a marketing pitch for AFL than actually addressing the issues of concern. I'd like to clarify first of all what this petition is not. This petition is not about whether or not we have an AFL team or an AFL team or an AFL stadium. It's not about whether or not Clarence should have a high performance centre. It is about a community that does not feel that it had a say in the decision, and it's about a community that does not agree with the location chosen. Much has been made about the number of responses to the survey as an indication of how engaged residents of Clarence were. The figure of 959 respondents is often quoted in correspondence, but we know that only around 758 of those were Clarence residents. I know our comms team did the best they could in the ridiculously short time allowed by the Liberal government for us to consult, but an online survey and a physical presence at the paint run means the survey did not reach a significant section of our community, as evidenced by over 1,000 signatures of Clarence residents on this petition, many of whom said they knew nothing about the proposal until the decision was made. If this number of people had been aware of the survey and had been able to respond, the outcome may have been very different. I wonder then if Council's decision would also have been different. Do we actually mean it when we say we listen to our community, or is it only when their opinion agrees with ours? I seek leave to table the petition.
Thank you. No, it's tabled. You don't need to do that. It's tabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The second petition is an electronic petition containing 2,906 signatures in support of the Rosny AFL High Performance Centre. That petition also complies with the requirements of Section 57 of the Local Government Act.
And that was given to you by me?
It was.
Excellent. Well, thank you, CEO. And so earlier today, I received an electronic petition on behalf of the Friends of the Rosny AFL-AFLW High Performance Centre that has, as the CEO has informed us, been signed by 2,906 individuals. As an overview, the petition is in strong support for the Rosny AFL High Performance Centre and reads in part, the petitioners hereby request that councillors remain unbiased and work collaboratively in order to establish Tasmania's first Australian Football League AFL High Performance Centre at Rosny to accommodate and shape the diverse benefits of both the local community and the broader region. A centre that benefits everyone. The petitioners request that councillors respectfully consider the following reasons for support: talent development, economic stimulus, tourism attraction, community engagement, infrastructure development, education, academia and research opportunities, local employment pathways, promotion of healthy lifestyles, regional pride and identity, increased AFL participation, networking and collaboration, and accessible public parklands. In summary, an AFL High Performance Centre at Rosny in the City of Clarence will have, with far-reaching positive effects ranging from economic development to community social engagement and talent development to education and employment, contributing to the overall prosperity and well-being of our community.
Is that all in the petition?
We, the decision makers, hold the power to help shape this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity into a high-performance centre that not only meets the needs of our future Tasmanian AFL
on a point of order,
teams.
a point of order.
I do not recognise you. Sit down.
A point of order. I'm asking if that is the petition in its entirety. Is that the petition in its entirety?
Councillor James, take your seat.
I'm asking a question.
Sit down.
Is that the petition in its entirety?
Sit down now. Sit down now. You've asked your question. Sit down.
Are you going to answer?
Sit down. I will not tolerate this disrespectful conduct in the chamber. I open my comments by saying, as an overview of the petition.
But that's not normally the way it's done.
Richard James. Councillor James, you've not read the petition. I'm giving you an overview of the petition.
It's the first we've heard of it.
Well, as we heard from Councillor Warren.
Aware of that, but not yours.
It's
your petition.
Councillor James, we have a very small agenda this evening. If you'd like to leave now, you're welcome to do so. I will not tolerate disrespect in this chamber. Bring your best self to this place. No, Councillor James, do not interrupt the chair. No, do not interrupt the chair. No, I beg your pardon.
What's wrong with that?
Councillor James, as a
Send me out or
Councillor
what?
James, as a 30-year veteran, you know better. Please bring your best self.
Likewise, sir.
But no, do not answer back. Do not be disrespectful. Bring your best self. It's not hard. Just act like an elected representative ought to. Now, I'll finish off what I was saying. Please don't interrupt again, me or anyone else in this chamber when they have the floor. We, the decision makers, hold the power to help shape this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity into a high-performance centre that not only meets the needs of our future Tasmanian AFL, AFLW teams, but also the community and overall region. And, Councillor James, do not interrupt. Do not interrupt by being rude.
Is this still the petition?
Councillor James, do not interrupt. Councillor James.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So that's the petition.
Thank you.
Councillor James, do not be snide. No, excuse me. I will not accept this behaviour from you or anyone. No, you do not interrupt the chair. You wait to get the call. You know how this works. You know how this works. And I didn't accept the point of order. So then you sit down. And then I'll call upon you. So I thank the organisers of the Friends of the Rosny AFL AFLW High Performance Centre for their petition, as well as the 2,906 individuals who provided their support. Moving on to 4.5, reports from outside bodies. Councillor Walker, Copping Refuse Disposal Site Joint Authority.
There's a little bit in the agenda, Man, and some more coming up in the close with some commercial matters.
Thank you very much. Southern Tasmanian Regional Waste Authority, Councillor Warren. No, all right. There's nothing to report for either Taswater Corporation or the Greater Hobart Committee. I note that Councillor James has a study tour report attached in the agenda. Councillor James, would you like to speak to your report?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for my colleagues for having it at least listed in the agenda. I really just want to refer to the observations that have been a summary in relation to this. And during the time that I was in New Zealand, it was part recreational and sightseeing, and a couple of days was spent in the Auckland Council and the Christchurch City Council. And the reasons I sort of want to drop into the actual council chambers in those particular places was just to get an overview and understanding of how they went ahead with their amalgamation. Auckland Council is an interesting one, and it's more like and akin to the Brisbane City Council. It's huge, and it's almost a state government in its own right. And one of the interesting things about the Auckland Council is it was established under the Auckland Act of about 2009, and during that time there was a lot of mergers and a lot of district councils came together, and in order to sort of have representation from the different districts, they set up local boards, and these local boards were responsible in many ways for normal activities within their particular areas, but they were not in a position to be able to raise rates or spend monies other than what may be approved by the Auckland Council, and that was in its own right 20 elected councillors, and they actually oversaw the funds that were allocated to those local boards. There was a lot of discussion in relation to local boards. Each of those councillors on the boards was paid a $32,000 a year. There was a chairperson, he was paid, or she was paid a considerable amount more as part of the running of that, but they're always accountable to the Auckland Council, and the distribution of all of the monies through the Auckland Council, that obviously they had to raise or have to put forward their request for that. So in a nutshell, that has gone ahead reasonably well since the amalgamation, and as I mentioned in the report, the local boards, the authority to initiate activities that are projects in their regions that benefit the local communities. But as far as funding and also listing for major works, that still rests with the Auckland Council. I'd mentioned part 3, the amalgamation of Auckland seems to have created motivation across the region and to collaborate, but confusion in understanding the roles of the Auckland Council versus the national government seemed to impact negatively on motivation to collaborate. With respect to Christchurch City Council, that focuses on horizontal infrastructure and community assets, and of course they raise their rates as part of their normal process. It's interesting to know, and in the chart that I've included here, there are basically 3 systems of government, regionally that is. There's the Regional Council, and that is shown as part of the many regions that are in the North and South Island. And of course Christchurch is really a district council because it has to be obviously answer to the Canterbury, that's on the second map. The Canterbury region is made up of many councils, and most of those are obviously accountable to the region as part of the overall operation of that particular region. So I mentioned here at part 6, there seems to be no incentive for amalgamation, particularly in the Southern Island. Everything seems to be going as smoothly as I suppose that one would expect. And cooperation between the neighbouring council was strong enough to convince the new national government to repeal the 3 waters legislation of the former Labor government. So there does not appear any likelihood for amalgamations of district councils in the Canterbury region. And having said that, Auckland is going ahead, and its sphere of influence is quite immense, and I present that to the council.
Thank you, Councillor James. So you're moving your report?
I am indeed. Thank you.
Call for a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Chong. We'll consider that move. Thank you very much. Colleagues, are there any other reports from council and special committees and other representative bodies? Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to table the minutes from the Belrive Community Arts Centre meeting and AGM the 13th of March, and also make special mention to thanking council for supplying a defib for the group and for the work that has been done around the gardens. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Chong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I table the Cycling South minutes from November and, with your indulgence, a very short verbal report on the bicentennial, which, as you all know, completed on the 10th of March with a slightly soggy resident street party. There will be a written report, so we'll do a full report which will be presented to Council, but just some numbers for people. 5 weekends, 11 musical performances, 7 exhibitions, approximately 250 volunteers and close to 29,000 visits to Richmond over that period for the events. So an amazing achievement, and a very big thank to Council from the committee and everyone here, both for the officers' assistance over a range of areas, but particularly facilities, arts and events, and marketing and comms, and for the funding from Council, which obviously allowed the community to put on this series of amazing events. Thank you.
Councillor Chong, may I just take this opportunity to thank you as Chair of the Richmond Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
Between yourself and Professor Noel Frankham, the Creative Director of the Bicentennial Committee, it was an outstanding effort over so many months, and the community really got behind. And being there on the 10th of March for the Colonial Fair was very special. So thank you to you and to Professor Frankham, to Miss Coburn and your team as well. Thank you, Miss Wicks, to your team, to all Council, because it really was quite extraordinary. So thank you. Are there any other reports from Council and other representative bodies? Okay, there being none, I move now on to 4.6, the weekly briefing reports. The weekly briefing reports of the 26th of February, the 4th and 11th of March have been circulated to councillors. Are there any matters arising? Councillor James.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The 11th of March 2024, I refer to curbside collection service delays, and note that the first paragraph states, and I refer to that as short-term delay in provision of curbside collection services. Reading through it, seems as though that there are a number of areas that are incomplete as far as the collection or green waste collection is concerned. So my question through you to the appropriate officer, when do we expect this service to be back to normal, and will there be a backlog so there would require additional persons to actually obviously utilise the trucks to do the collection?
Thank you, Councillor James. Ms. Coombs.
Everything is slightly delayed due to a driver shortage with our new contractor, but they have got some additional drivers coming, and that they are aiming to be back on top of things, I believe, by today. So,
thank you, Ms. Coombs. Anything else, Councillor James? Any other colleagues have any matters to rise out of the weekly briefing reports? Okay, well, thank you. I know we're at the end of our omnibus items. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kennedy, second to Councillor Chong. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving now to item 5, which is public question time. 5.1, we have a question notice from Mrs Denise Hoggan of Rosny. So 5.2 questions, actually. So 5.2, answers to questions. CEO, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms Hoggan asked 2 questions. The first question is in relation to the Rosny Hill Hotel and Tourist Facility development. And the question was, what are the proposed boundaries under discussion and negotiation of a sublease area for use for hotel and tourist facility development? The answer to that question is as follows. Council and the developer are in the process of negotiating sublease terms, which will include definition of sublease boundaries. At this stage, it is not appropriate to provide details of sublease boundaries until the sublease has been reviewed by councillors at a workshop. We then expect to submit the proposed sublease to Council for consideration and decision in open council. At that time, the sublease will be available to the public, including the proposed sublease boundaries. To be clear, the sublease will only be for the part of Rosny Hill Nature Recreation Area sufficient to accommodate the buildings and infrastructure subject to the sublease. The second question relates to ecological surveys for the same area. And the question is, what ecological surveys has the Management Authority, that is Clarence City Council, undertaken since the developer funded surveys and Rosny Hill Friends Network surveys of 2019 in the Rosny Hill Nature Recreation Area? The answer to that question is that Council has not undertaken any ecological survey since 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir. Moving on to 5.3, answers to previous questions taken on notice. There are none, so questions without notice. Are there any questions from the gallery this evening? Please, Mrs Marsh, to the microphone. Thank you.
One of the goals for our city is to provide a well-planned, livable city. Strategic Plan 2.5 purports to provide for and prioritise a safe, reliable and accessible pedestrian network. In my deputation on the 26th of 2nd 24, I stated that I believe that signalisation and signage at the Kangaroo Bay pedestrian crossing does not meet adequate safety standards. My question is, has this urgent matter been prioritised, and if not, why not?
Thank you, Mrs Marsh. CEO, please.
Thank you. I'll take that question on notice.
Thank you. Mr Marsh.
I'm Victor Marsh from Belrive. My wife and I have been standing near Rosny Hill Road, Charles Ham Memorial Park for over 2.5 months, holding signs without any problems. Also, we had 14 ribbons tied to trees for 3 weeks. So my question is, why did it take until last Thursday afternoon for 4 council rangers and 2 police officers to tell us to leave because we didn't have a permit, and you will be fined $500 for each ribbon if you don't remove them?
Thank you, Mr Marsh. CEO, please.
Thank you. We were responding to issues raised in respect to that conduct, and we acted in accordance with the Public Places bylaw to make you aware that tying ribbons to trees and placing stakes in ground with placards on it is littering, and hence ask you to remove those and leave the site. Thank you.
Just like to thank the 2 police officers who were sympathetic to our
Mr. Marsh,
cause.
thank you. You know the rules. Thank you. Right, item number 6, deputations by members of the public. Members of the public making a deputation are reminded that they are limited to 3 minutes, and a timer will stand at the end of that time, and in fairness to everyone, I will enforce that. CEO, are there any deputations this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. We have one deputation from Mr Marsh of Belrive in relation to community feedback on local issues.
Thank you, Mr Marsh.
Over a period of 3 weeks, I've been collecting signatures for a petition regarding a public meeting for the siting of the proposed AFL High Performance Training Centre. The area I was doing was from Belrive Bluff to Wentworth Street, as well as York and Alma Streets. There would have been over 150 residents where no one was home. I collected about 300 signatures. When people opened their doors, I would say, would you be interested in signing this petition? We're trying to save Charles Ham Memorial Park and Rosny Park from being developed by the Clarence Council and the AFL, who want to build a high-performance training centre on them. We need 1,000 signatures to force the council to have a public meeting on this issue. I would say well over half of these residents had no idea what I was talking about. Once I explained to them what was going on, in particular what a high-performance training centre entailed and would result in trees being cut down, along with the skate park and the tennis courts most likely to go, people were horrified and were quite willing to sign the petition. Most people knew about the stadiums debate and the Tassie team, but were clueless about the high-performance training centre taking over these inner-city parks. There was a small percentage of people who supported the new stadium, Tassie team and the high-performance training centre, but not at the expense of these intercity parks. There was also a percentage of people who supported the high-percentage training centre built on these parks, but even they weren't all that happy about it. If that's where it has to be, that's where it has to be. And a percentage of people who didn't really care one way or the other. There was also a feeling of angst amongst the residents. Fellow petitioners expressed the same feelings. It wasn't just on this issue alone, but on a range of issues. People just don't know what's going on in their community. What we petitioners have experienced is that the AFL and the Clarence Council do not have a social licence to build this high-performance training centre on our inner-city parks. Having legal and political authority is not all that matters. Social licence is about doing the right thing. A social licence establishes legitimacy and trust and applies to every organisation whose operations impact humans, wildlife and environment. This build at any cost mentality has got to stop and start preserving our parklands for future generations to enjoy. No other town or city in Australia would destroy their inner city parks, especially our Memorial Park. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, are you reading something while my husband's speaking?
Mrs Marsh,
Are you?
Mrs Marsh, Mrs Marsh,
How rude.
Mrs Marsh, I'm not the rude one here. You don't have licence to yell out from the public gallery like you've just done. You know that. You've had years of practice. You know how the rules apply in this chamber. And Mr Marsh, what I will just say, and I was finding my notes from earlier to repeat this, is it's important when you come into this place that you be factually correct in what you say. No decision's been made about the skate park. No decision has been made about the tennis courts. And what's also to know is that the tennis club's actually written a letter in support of the High Performance Centre in the two identified positions. So please, it's incorrect for you to come in here and make those sorts of statements because they're just not true. But thank you for your deputation. Thank you, Mrs Marsh. All right, moving on. We now move to item 7, Planning Authority Matters. There are none. 8, the reports from officers, nor are there any. There are no motions on notice. Item 9. Item 10, Councillors' question time. Questions on notice. There are none. 10.3, answers to questions on notice. Previous questions are listed in the agenda. 10.4, questions without notice. Are there any questions from the floor, starting this evening with Councillor Kennedy?
None from me, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Chong.
First one. Several weeks ago, one of the trees on the green triangle by Richmond Bridge lost a very large limb. Luckily, didn't take out any houses or anything. But the tree is currently cordoned off, saying dangerous tree around it. My question is, do we have an arborist report on the tree and the other tree on that same triangle? And are we expecting that they will either or both have to be removed?
Thank you, Councillor Chong. Ms Kearns, thank you.
Arborist report to the end of last week. We're going through that at the moment. Thankfully, the trees don't need to come out, particularly the one that's had the damage. However, it will need some scaffold reduction, so reducing the crown down, and it is likely that we'll need to increase our monitoring. We've got some very interesting images of what the actual decay is like. So we're trying to retain those trees through the Richmond Master Plan, which is in draft form, and thankfully at the moment they look like they can stay.
Thank you, Ms Kearns. Councillor Chong.
My second question. A recent media release from the Minister for Sport, Nick Street, committed funding to the Tas Football Umpires Association, and the release congratulates the President of the TFUA on his efforts to bring this project to life, and in particular his successful negotiation with Clarence City Council to provide a suitable ground at North Moraine Oval where the new home for umpires will be built. So my question is, have the other users of the ground, Eastern Suburbs Rugby Football Club and the McKillop Cricket Club, been consulted? My information is that they have not received any formal notification. Can we know what and when this is going to happen?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll ask the CEO to answer this one. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, as you'll note, the release talks about a promise of funding as part of the election campaign. I can advise Council that there has been no commitments made by this Council, whether staff or anyone else, in respect to a future home for the AFL umpires at North Moraine Oval. That will be subject to a future discussion if that funding is confirmed, and obviously that future discussion would involve consultation with other stakeholders. I will note that the AFL umpires have been training at North Moraine Oval and using the facilities that are there at the moment, but aside from any other commitment, those have not been made by Council.
Thank you, Mr John. Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have two questions about the High Performance Centre. The first one, something that's been bothering me for a while. So I went back and looked at the agenda in the minutes for the 11th of December when this decision was made. And the proposal that came before this House, and which we voted on, 7-5 in favour of, was option A, where the the primary oval would be on Charles Hand Park and the secondary one would be on Rosny. And option B, which was the other way around, it said in the agenda in the report that option B will require significant facility infrastructure to be built within the Rosny Parklands for the exclusive use of the AFL HPC. The City Heart Plan envisages the Rosny Parklands to have broad community access and utility. Assigning a large area of the parklands for exclusive use is inconsistent with the plan for the parklands, which has been subject to significant community consultation. It's also likely that the exclusive use may present problems in terms of its cohesion with other planned uses for the parklands, namely the proposed play park, arts and event space and wild park. And I read that out because that is in contradiction with some of the correspondence I've seen going out to residents as recently as today. So my question is, how did we get to the stage where our less preferred option of B, with the primary oval for exclusive use being on the former Rosny Golf Course, and the secondary oval being at Charles Hand instead of option A, which was what was passed on the night? How did we get to that point? Was there some negotiation? Because everything I've seen in the media since has option B as the accepted proposal. So that's my question.
Before I call the CEO, I'll just remind you, Councillor Warren, I've given you a lot of latitude with asking that question, but our meeting regs clearly outline that in putting a question without notice of the meeting, a councillor must not A, offer an argument or an opinion, or B, draw any inferences or make any imputations, except so far as may be necessary to explain the question. So a lot of latitude there. CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. When we framed the recommendation for the December meeting, it was effectively to provide the Department of State Growth and AFL a choice of two options. You could flip one way or the other. It would be fair to say that the advice that we have in terms of preference from the Department of State Growth and AFL is a preference towards the main site being on the Rosny Parklands side. However, that is not confirmed in any way, shape or form. It is simply their preference at this point in time, and that will be subject to a lot of geology work and other pre-site testing that needs to be done in the next couple of months to determine whether that site is actually suitable for the primary site or in fact whether Charles Hand Park would make the better option. So that is still very much an open question at this point in time.
Councillor Warren, your second question, please.
Thank you for that, CEO. My second question is that when we discussed this last, we were told that the next steps were to establish a heads of agreement. So my second question is, what's the status of that? And is that something that will come back to Council for a decision?
Thank you, CEO.
Thank you. I can update Council on that. As recently as Friday last week, we had another meeting with the Department of State Growth, and today we have sent an updated draft heads of agreement to them to review. We are working throughout the caretaker period to try and get that to a point where at an officers level in Council and in Department of State Growth we're comfortable with that, and once the new government is elected I would anticipate bringing that heads of agreement to Council to workshop with you while it also goes through a similar process at the Department of State Growth. So the work is very well advanced. We're just putting finishing touches to that, resolving a few outstanding issues at an officer level, but again, nothing is locked in stone at this point in time.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Goyne.
I also have two questions. I believe from Friday there has been a fire burning and now smouldering at Scotts Road in Risdon Vale. Are we aware if the appropriate permits were issued by the Tasmanian Fire Service for that fire?
Thank you, Councillor Goyne. CEO, please.
Thank you, Councillor Goyne. I can advise that that isn't a fire. It's actually steam coming off of a compost pile as it is turned over. It's a mixture of wood chips and other compostable materials. So it's just internal heat generated by the decomposition process to making compost. And as you turn it, steam comes off if the temperature conditions are right.
Councillor Goyne.
Also, I believe that the aforementioned site has been operating without the appropriate permit since 2009, and that council itself has noted the potential risks to residents exposed to the off-run from the site. Do we have any action plan to be taken by council about the site? And do we expect any upcoming legal processes from council or a retrospective permits to come to council in regards to the property?
Mr Maher, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Goyne, for the question. There is a current application has been lodged as a level 2 activity which requires the assessment of the proposal through the Environmental Protection Agency. That matter is in hand with the EPA, but I understand that they're seeking to modify that and relodge it. As yet, I haven't seen a modified proposal. Those matters which are subject to the EPA assessment, Council is specifically prohibited from lodging an enforcement action process against because they are in the purview of the EPA. That said, when that application is finalised and assessed by the EPA, assuming that there are representations, which I'm sure there will be, the matter will come to Council at that time. In the meantime, we are undertaking an audit of any other activities on that site so that we're able to provide a more comprehensive consideration as part of any assessment of that proposal through the EPA.
Thank you, Mr Maher. Councillor Walker.
Thank you. And noting the efficiency with which the ribbons were dealt with, in 2022 I moved a motion around graffiti eradication. That motion principally was to deal with other assets, in particular the TAS Networks infrastructure, which tends to be the slowest to have graffiti removed. I'm asking for an update in the context of the multiple vile levels of racist graffiti in parts of Lorraine and Mornington that residents are having to endure.
Thank you, Councillor Walker.
Thank you.
Take your seat, Councillor Walker.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Walker. We have been working in accordance with that motion from Council some time ago. We made a number of inquiries of other service providers, but to pick up your reference to TAS Networks, TAS Networks have refused to allow any staff other than their own to respond to any of their infrastructure. So, speaking more broadly, I've been working with other councils to identify whether there's a possibility for a more regional approach to graffiti, recognising some of the nature of that, and those discussions have included TAS Police as well. But the sticking point remains the TAS Networks infrastructure and the flat refusal to find a better way to deal with that more effectively. But we are continuing to work on that solution.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Walker.
Thank you for that update, and I think it's about time an imperialist empire had some blowtorch put on it. Separate to that, my next question, you may recall I brought some water from the toilet facilities at Gilston Bay Recreational Area to offer as drink in the absence of a water fountain. Noting, as I went past there on the weekend, a fabulous new installation that has been put there and operational, is it possible for your engineering staff to take a compliment?
Ms Coombs, would you like to respond to that one, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you. Yes, my team were very fast acting to turn that one around, so thank you.
Very much. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor James.
Thank you. Two questions. Firstly, some years ago there was a deed between the Howrah Hills Landcare Group, the MS Cass Proprietary Limited and the Clarence City Council, which was in relation to Skyline Drive and basically a limitation on the amount of housing that could occur back in that time. I've been made aware that there may be coming to Council a submission to send to the Tasmanian Tasmanian Planning Commission a some discussion or some briefing paper about the change to that deed. So my question is, has there been any discussions at officer level as to a submission that may be prepared and may not go through council, elected reps, to the TPC in relation to the changing of that zone on Skyline Drive?
Thank you, Councillor James. Mr Mark, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for the question. Council would be aware that an email was circulated to all councillors today, generally asking the same question. I will give a full answer on notice, but just to note that the matter is actually stemming from a substantial modification process that is hanging around from the adoption of the Tasmanian planning scheme several years ago, and it's one of those unresolved matters. But as I said, I'll take it on notice and provide a comprehensive response.
Thank you, Mr Mark. Councillor James, second question, please.
Second question is in relation to the 1,000 signatures that were a result of a petition in this place this evening and concerns about the High Performance Centre in particular Charles Hand Park. That petition, as my understanding, is that council is compelled to hold a public meeting, and I can't recall the section of the Local Government Act, but it's very similar to what actually happened with UTAS in relation to their relocation, and that petition was signed by over 1,000 persons, and that by the very nature went to a meeting, etc., and we know the result of that. So there is a timeline, Mr Mayor, for that meeting to be convened, and given that there was a very close decision on that motion that my colleague Councillor Warren
Councillor James, I'm going to ask you
earlier.
to put your question,
Yeah.
please. So you've had a lot of latitude here.
My question is that if a decision of that meeting is for the council to revoke its decision of the 11th of December, will council take that on board, or will it be basically shelved and put in the too hard basket?
So before I call on the CEO, as I've mentioned a moment ago, Councillor Jones, to another colleague, in putting a question without notice of the meeting, you must not offer an argument or opinion or draw any inferences or make any imputations. You're asking the CEO now to comment on what this body may or may not do based on what a public meeting may or may not decide. A lot of latitude. Don't pull strange faces, Councillor James. It's actually not in line with the rules. But Councillor James, I'm just making the point, and also questions are meant to be a lot less lengthy. But I'll call on the CEO. Succinct's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. CEO, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. In answer to the question, any motions passed by the public meeting need to be presented to council, and council can then determine how it wishes to treat those. So there is no defined outcome per the imputation of your question, but the process is once the public meeting has been held, at the next council meeting we will provide a report detailing any motions and any other material, and then it will be a matter for council to determine how it wishes to respond to that.
Thank you. Councillor Hume.
Thank you, Mayor. First question, I just thought I'd check on the progress of the development of the city development plan.
I'm going to take that one on notice, thank you.
And second question, does the Local Government Act provide any guidance as to should a public meeting be required to be called in response to the petition on how that public meeting is to be conducted?
CEO, thank you.
Thank you. No, the Act doesn't provide particular guidance on how a meeting is to be conducted, but there is a process leading up to the public meeting regarding advertising, submissions, all of those sort of things and how those get dealt with. So if you want to see those details, it's section 60A of the Local Government Act.
Can I also just add as well that on the website there's guidelines for submission to petitions. There's a 3-page document there. It also then states that if the petition seeks a public meeting, if the petition is compliant with the Act, the public meeting will be held within 30 days of the ordinary meeting referred to where the petition is lodged and tabled. So within 30 days that will occur. But the CEO then just outlined that there are obviously some timings around that as well that are set out under the Act. But that's all available on our website. Your second question, you've had two? You have two, thank you. Councillor Hunter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 2 questions. The first one, can we please have an update on the development of the Roaches Beach Coastal Hazard Management Plan?
Thank you. Ms Coops.
Through you, Mr Mayor, our council have received a draft plan and I think it's appropriate we bring a briefing report to council with a formal update.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Coops. Councillor Hunter.
Second question, have any planning documents regarding 52 Richardson's Road been submitted to council recently?
Mr Martin.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Yes, Council have received an application that is currently being assessed and a number of further information has been requested. The process is, once that has been received, Council will write a report, present to Council for a decision as to whether that should proceed to an advertising process or not.
Thank you, Mr Martin. Thank you, Councillor Hunter. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I also have 2. In February this year, the Australian Road Research Board conducted a detailed road survey inspection program across the city. I'm just wondering how this data is compiled and whether or not this results in any feedback that comes to councillors.
Thank you. Ms Coombs.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll take that one on notice.
Yeah, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yep, thank you. My second question may also be taken on notice, and that's okay. Is Council aware of any bylaw or any other regulation in relation to the use of barbed wire as a fencing option in suburban areas?
Thank you. I'm definitely going to take that one on notice.
Thank you. We're now at the end of item 10.4. Move on to item 11, which is the closed meeting. I'll call for a motion to move into closed meeting. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Hume, thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. So thank you to those members of the public who attended tonight and those who attended from home via the live stream. Please end the live stream. Look forward to seeing you in 3 weeks' time. Great. Thank you. Moving on now, colleagues, to item 11.